All right, joining us now should be Chief Victims Advocate Ruth Money. Ruth, sorry for the delay this morning. Lovely to have you on. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Apologise for, we've had some problems with our techniques this morning, but you are back. Listen, you're the Chief Victims Advisor to the government, and the couple of issues I wanted to raise with you, and I'm sure you have, is one, the granting of bail in the case of the German tourist who was allegedly gang raped. And I think there's a fair shock that the police didn't oppose that bail. The second one, Ruth, I wanted to talk to you about was the scale of the problem when it comes to restitution in this country.
Yes.
And the fact that so many victims who have been awarded monetary sums by the courts as part of the retribution and punishment process are not receiving those payments at all. There's something like $105 million owed. That's money that was revealed under, I guess, the Official Information Act, I think, rather than any particular government publication.
Yes, it was.
Your response to both those issues, please.
Oh, I just hang my head. I guess it's the reason for my being, I think. Quickly on the bail, bail is there to protect, yes, you're innocent till proven guilty, but bail is there to protect the community, and police don't just make up an investigation and charge people for fun. So it is concerning when bail is not opposed, bail is sought and not opposed. It concerns me that there is that behaviour or that belief within members of the system that we are not fighting harder to protect community moving forward. So yes, I have great concerns around some of those decisions with respect to that case.
And as respect of the restitution issue, because it's the reason that courts, as I said, and make restitution to victims is it's part of the punishment, and it's also part of acknowledging that the victims have suffered. But when it seems that the judicial process or the court process is part of not making sure those payments are made or chasing them up, doesn't that mean the state is indirectly involved in re-victimising that particular victim?
Yeah, I have a huge issue with this and have asked a number of questions and doing a bit of a deep dive into how this can be so. I have sat in court and reparation has been ordered, and then when my victims have gone back to the court to say, hey, it's not getting paid, what can I do about this? They are directed to a civil proceedings where you and I know it's going to take years and it's going to cost them money to try and get back, yes, what's already been ordered by the court, as you say, part of a sentence, part of denunciation and punishment and being held to account. So let
me get this right, Ruth. Sorry, just let me get this right. So if I've been awarded restitution as part of the punishment or the justice process and I'm a victim and I haven't received it, I've then got to turn that into a civil case, do you say, to get my money?
If you would like to chase it up. So you could either go, yeah, okay, I'm not going to get the money, and that's what's happened, or you could try and pursue it, but you have to pursue it under your own steam.
Oh, for Pete's
sake. There is nothing. That's right. So you can imagine my alarm and concern and motivation to get this right. There needs to be, if a court is ordering something like reparation, it needs to have teeth. It's as simple as that. So we need to sort that out so that people are having to pay what is ordered. That's an absolute joke, and it is a slap in the face. The reparation system, ideally, my worldview on it is if it is ordered, the state should pay it and in full, and the state should then chase the offender for the $2 a week, because it's a constant reminder, right? Like, you might have been awarded $5,000, but to see, and you don't get the offender's name in your bank account, but you get the Ministry of Justice's name in your bank account every week or every month with that little amount of money that's, being drip fed to you. Again,
that's extraordinary.
Completely suboptimal. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing about that, though, I was just thinking the argument there as to why was there a particular reason why you had to go through the civil route and not take the common sense solution that you've provided? what was the argument? This is just too hard to do. We don't want to do it, so we'll just transfer the responsibility to the victim.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and honestly, that, you know, as you know, my very reason for being is to make the system more accountable to victims. It's all very well and good thinking about the scales of justice, but we know that the victims are, 2% of the story, and to be fair to the government, they are trying to elevate that. We are trying to, and I've, as you know, 13 years of lobbying to try and fix that the victims are more of a priority in the system. So I think there are many, sadly, examples like this reparation where people have just assumed, oh, okay, there's been a court order made, we're tickety-boo. But the reality is that the system doesn't then go, well, what if that is not paid? And it is complicated because the victims aren't a party to the process. So they are invisible because the process has been, like it has in every jurisdiction, has been built around the offender. But because you're not a party to it, you are slightly invisible, and people just haven't prioritised your needs as much as they've prioritised the official party's needs, being the police or Crown and the offender.
Okay.
I fear we're going to have lots of conversations like this, Michael.
I'm sure you are. And I suppose the positive thing is that at least the government have acknowledged that victims are getting a raw deal, which is why you are in your official position. But having said that, I'm interested in the discussions you've had so far. And you've only been on the job a few months, but I'm interested in where you think the problem is. If you've got politicians that are going, no, this is wrong, and you've got, obviously it's wrong, and then everybody knows that there's a problem and it's wrong, where's the opposition to changing the policy? Because you wouldn't need legislation necessarily to go through the House. You just need a change in departmental direction, wouldn't you?
Yes. I actually don't think, and that's why I think I've got a great job. Yes, people oppose what I say, don't get me wrong, but in theory there is cross-party support of course there is, for making sure that the victim's experience is a lot more humane and is privileged a lot higher than it is right now. So I don't think I have opposition, and I'm not getting opposition in terms of, hey, this is not right, let's fix it. But I think the challenge comes, it's a bit like, in how Chester Burrows used to say, it's a bit like how do you eat an elephant, because it's so big and there are so many moving parts that it's my strategy is to stand back and look at all these silos and all these things that are happening in the victim's space, but they're all just happening in little bits. And that's where a victim is re-traumatised. There might be 17 times that you have to tell your story on the way through to different people who are supposed to be there to help you. They are there to help you, but only for a tiny part of the process. So what I'm trying to do is fix the landscape.
Judges, when they make these announcements or make these decisions as to restitution or reparation, in many cases they will say, oh, listen, there's no point in me offering reparation or restitution because this person obviously has got an inability to pay. They might be bankrupt on one hand, or they might be, living on welfare already. So, but presumably, I don't know if you'll be having this discussion as well with the judiciary. Restitution or reparation is part of the punishment. So if they can't offer $5,000 or $15,000 or $25,000 or whatever it is to the victim, then that flows through into, so I'm not now going to give you home detention, I am going to make you go and spend time in prison or something else. So you would expect there to be some sort of scale on which, okay, I can't offer reparation or restitution, therefore I am going to impose a greater penalty or punishment upon you. Is that happening, or is it irrelevant?
Yeah, and that's how judges sentence. So they look at the whole mix, is there reparation, was there remorse? They consider all of it before they determine what that sentence is. And yes, can they pay reparation or not is part of the process. And I think, that's why I'm so outraged at this $105 figure, because it hasn't been, million, because it hasn't been, judges don't normally make a sentencing decision that is so outrageous. You know, they have looked at the person, they understand that the person has the means to pay this reparation.
Yeah.
So that's why, and you know, I've sat in courtrooms all I know that. So for me, it's about the collection and enforcement of that court order as opposed to it being ordered wrong. It hasn't been ordered incorrectly. It hasn't been part of a sentence that is unachievable for the defendant or the offender. It's actually that the system is therefore not, you know, it's been ordered and then there's nothing happening in terms of the teeth to get it back to the victim. And that's where I actually think the problem sits, which is where I'm concentrating the most on. However, my ultimate with the unicorns and the fairies would be that the system is the state pays the victim and then the state can take on that responsibility.
Yeah.